All right, man.
Hey,
Hey,
we're live.
Hemati
We're
Hump
live.
Day again. I always
Uh,
like keep my fingers crossed. We're actually gonna make it happen this week
it's gonna happen. We just have to have the power of positive thinking.
for sure. Especially when you're running a Windows computer.
Uh,
Oh,
uh, no, we were just talking about this off stream, but you know how everything right now is AI, right? Like
yep.
AI everything. And one of the things that Microsoft's been doing is they've been putting all their eggs into the AI basket, Copilot. Like even so, the I bought one of the new Copilot Plus machines. I didn't buy one of the ARM ones, the Snapdragon ones. It's an AMD, but it even has the Copilot button on the
Oh
keyboard.
yeah. So
Push
fancy.
that, Copilot pops up. Let's write me a poem, or whatever. Um,
Yep.
but one of the things that make these Copilot Plus machines super fancy is they have an NPU. So it's designed for you to be able to offload AI generation tasks to this special part of the processor. It's supposed to be extra fast, extra efficient for that. The problem is there aren't any applications for it. So like, buy this thing. And you're like, so I can do what with it? And you're like, stuff
We'll figure that out later.
in the future.
Yeah.
So far they've got two applications with it. One of them is camera app, which we were trying to get to use.
Which we're trying to get working.
It will
Yep.
offload like stuff like background removal or like soft focus effects or whatever. It'll offload that. So instead of running on the processor, run on the NPU part. So save you battery life. So if you're doing video calls all day and you don't want to be plugged in, some efficiency on those effects. Okay, that's something. Could not get it to work. Like the program crashes, switches the camera into black and white mode. Like it's just a mess.
Right.
So the other thing is in Paint Plus, you can do AI augmented painting. So you can be like, okay, there's a tree over here, and you're like, so you just kind of draw an outline, like this is a tree, and then it'll fill it in with the tree, like or like you'll take a picture of
That's
your
cool.
driveway, and like put a Cyber truck here in the driveway, and it'll doesn't work. So
sounds great though.
yeah, it's so bad, and and it's like everything else with Windows now, the poor thing, like it's been just
Poor thing.
yeah, it's sort of like band-aids on top of band-aids on top of band-aids. Like you'll be doing stuff and you're like, oh, this is the new interface, and you'll turn the corner and there'll be something else, from like 1993, and you're like clicking the buttons on it and it's like all white and everything, You're like, what? How is this still in there? It's like, oh, because all that stuff is still in there. It's just layers.
That's what I feel like. That's what Windows. I don't know why they do it this way, but it seems like they just build their stuff on top of the old stuff. It's like, let's not remove that. Because I guess they're committed to backward compatibility, so like that makes sense. But it just reminds me of going to Rome, and seeing this archaeology, and like underneath Rome, there's the old Rome, and underneath that, there's an even older Rome, and underneath that, and it's just these layers of like, oh yeah, this was
Rome's all the way down.
Rome, yeah, it's just like it's
we'll go down to the center of the earth. Here's more Rome.
More Rome, yeah, it's crazy.
Oh well, and I know there's got to be something like there's some company out there that has made this device that people just rely on. Like this is how they program their industrial robots or something, and it's this device that needs something inside the control panel. And every year when control panel doesn't get phased out, they're like, no, it's still there. You have to go find it, and it's hidden. And every once in a while you'll be in settings and it'll dump you into control panel. You wonder like, what is
this?
Yeah. But it's like that company is like, thank you, Microsoft, for leaving control, because otherwise their stuff doesn't work at all. And so they need control panel to stay there. And so so that's what Windows is. It's like
it's really funny
legacy garbage.
of garbage. Exactly. And it's like, I was now that I've been messing around with Linux and stuff, it's really interesting, the difference, not that Linux has their act together either. I mean, that's a totally different type of cluster. But
you notice certain things.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so it really makes me appreciate, really, Mac, because they have it's not that they do everything perfectly, but they've just culled down, like, you got one repository to deal with, which is Homebrew, or Brew, whatever you want to call it. And you can actually access that repository from Windows, from Linux. Everybody can kind of use it from a Mac, obviously. They're like for example, I was setting up this cloud file server thing that I have. You and I've talked about it before, and so the way that you would set it up over here is different than the way you would set it up over there, and it's kind of like it's just it gets a little bit cumbersome. But what I've started figuring out is actually no, there's a config file. You can actually save that, and then you can import it into your new installations and just box it out like that. But as I was setting it up in Windows, it was like, you could do this, or you could do this, or you could go to Task Scheduler and do this. And I'm like, I didn't even know Task Scheduler was a thing. So I go in there. I'm like, oh wow, look at this! Wow,
okay. The whole thing just sitting right.
The whole thing, and I'm like, wow, this is it's almost like Mac Automator. Like Mac has Automator, which will build you programs, and you can. It's really cool. I didn't even know what it did or how it worked, but now I'm like, oh, that's why you would do that. Anyway, at the end of the day, like after looking at all the different things and experimenting with some stuff, I was up late last night messing with it. I was like, I'm just going to write a batch file, because that's, I know how to write a batch file, and I know how to put an auto start, and I know that will work on literally everything. So let's just do that. And boom, and done. And I'm like, why? I learned how to do that when I was like 9.
Because that's part of the legacy of DOS.
DOS, right?
That was from what batch files were in, I think DOS 1.1 or something like that back in 1982.
Yeah, I was like, dude, I literally learned this before I knew algebra. Like this is easy. Let's just write a batch file, because I went and Googled, like, can you still write batch files in Windows? I was like, oh yeah, and just do this. I'm like, yeah, I just went to the command line and wrote it, and it works like a charm. I'm like, well, what?
Why are we doing this anyway? Well, the funny thing too, and I think this is the cool thing about Linux, that, love it or hate it, they're not afraid of doing like a clean sheet start over. Like you like the GNOME desktop.
Right.
And I remember when they switched to their new model, which was like, there's no desktop, there's no icons, there's no menu. It's just like the blank screen.
Yeah.
And people were mad. They were like,
yeah,
this sucks. Like, how are you supposed to get anything done without having your icons and files all over the desktop? And we're like, yeah, we're not doing that. Like, if you want to do that, just use the old version. It's still there, and people maintain it, and people, they want to hold on to it. It's like, no one's stopping you, but we're not going to let that halt what we want to do with this project. You don't have this giant committee saying, no, the whole operating system is one thing. And so whatever we're doing over in the UI over here, we got to make sure that the people on the server side do, know about it. It's like, we don't got to deal with that. The UI people, let them have their fun, And
I think, it is interesting, because there's a, I was reading one of the, so that project in Linux, for those of you guys that geek out about this stuff, is called Universal Blue. And I guess they, I don't want to get into all their philosophy, but basically it's like, how do we create this to where out of the box you have a pleasing user experience and something that's customizable, fun to use, can't break it, and
everything's basically there.
They've done such a great job. So if you like Mac look and feel, you can use this one called Bluefin. If you like Windows, you can use this one called Aurora. They kind of, but they're all infinitely customable because it's Linux. And it's just sandboxed nicely. You can't really screw anything up, and here it is. And yet you can still customize. And one of the things I was reading on there was like, this is it. Every like UI is such a subjective thing. Like, yes, there's design language that we all respond to, and that's one of the things I really like about Mac, for example, is they're so focused on the user experience and all this stuff. And yet you're still dealing with their decisions, right? So they like, this is what we're going to do, and here you go. And for me, it worked. I really like it. It works for most people that use it. They like it. It works. And However, just having that extra ability to customize and tweak and change and shift. I don't want this over here. I don't want to do that. I like this over here. That's one of the things I really love about Linux. The only downside to it that I'm kind of like realizing after like using it for a little bit is that a good part of your day is just tweaking different things that you really don't need to tweak, but you're kind of like,
I could make this better. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Rather than doing your work, So
there's a fun discussion that the people who are notorious for this kind of thing are developers. So when it comes to programming, not only is the kind of stuff you're talking about, like, well, let's tweak the desktop a little bit, and every little thing we're like, well, no, I only use this editor, and I have these 50 different plugins, and it opens up this way, and then it's using up this much of the screen, and it's like, if you're not careful, you can spend your entire day, every day, customizing your environment, your build environment, your tool chain.
Right.
And it's like, there's one guy who said that what he did as like a spiritual discipline was to only use the defaults for a year on everything. Like if he installed a program, he was not open up the options tab, just use the defaults. And if the defaults were bad, he wouldn't use it. So it's basically like, if the defaults need to be good enough. And so it changed the way he thought about his computer. It's like, I don't want to
actually like that.
I just want to use the defaults. I'll adapt to the defaults. It's okay. I thought that was an interesting. I don't think I could ever do it. It would be like, would you like to give up food for the next 6 months? Like,
it would be a spiritual discipline, though. It would bring you closer to God, I'm sure.
It'd be like fasting.
Yeah. Oh man! So what events are we talking about today?
We have new president.
Yeah.
New president, same as the old president.
It's the old
45,
president.
47. Yeah.
It's like that song from The Who, man. Like, meet the
In
new
comes
boss.
the new boss. Same as the
old boss.
Yeah. Did you watch the inauguration?
I did.
Yeah.
In the background, I wasn't paying too much attention to it. I did pay attention when he was giving his speech. The two different speeches I thought were pretty good.
Very different speeches.
Yeah, very different. And then I caught last night some of the signing where he's signing the executive orders. I'm pretty sure a few of those are illegal, so we'll find out.
And that'll be kind of the fun of it. It's like, where
that's
before
we can get away with. It was literally just like, yeah, we're doing it. Oh, that's a good one. And he would always say, oh, that's a good one. Oh, that's a.
Hey, which one is this one? Which one is this? Oh, this is the one that does that. Oh, you guys are gonna love
that's real important.
That's a good one. Yeah. There was so much about it that I think for people who enjoyed the first Trump presidency, like the drama of it, right? So I'm not saying they enjoyed the policies, but they enjoyed the experience of it. Biden presidency was so boring. Like he would get up, he would read from a teleprompter poorly, and then people would be like, "Oh, Mr. President, Mr. President," the reporters would be like, "Mr. President," like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'll get in trouble if I answer questions."
His way out of the room.
Well, I remember that one time he said, "I'll get in trouble if I answer questions."
Right. Oh, they don't want me talking about that.
They don't want me talking. He'll just walk off, give these prepared remarks.
When have you ever heard a president of the United States? Oh yeah, they don't want me. That's unbelievable.
Well, anyway, so Trump is in there signing his executive orders, and there's reporters in the room, and someone asks my question, he just answers it. It's like, oh, well, blah, blah, blah. Here's one. What about this? What about this? And it's like, oh, wait a second. like, we're not going to sit here until noon every day. And, it's the press corps and, submit pre-written questions for maybe someone to answer or whatever. It's like, right. Oh, no. Like, he's, you got to be on your toes now. He's working. You better be working.
Yeah.
That was kind of interesting. It was like a refreshing change. Pulling out, you notice he pulled out his Sharpies again. He has his custom Sharpies.
Yeah.
And everything.
And you hear the squeaking.
Yeah. Oh, so funny. You know the story behind that, right?
No.
Oh,
I always remember him drawing the path of the hurricane, like extending it. Mm-hmm. Like, oh no, it really.
It's gonna go into Alabama. Yeah. Yeah. So Cross had been the official presidential pen people for the longest time. They make these beautiful ballpoints or fountain pens or whatever. You have the fancy one you'd sign. And so, of course, they made some for the new president. Comes in, Trump is trying it out. And he's just like, I just don't like this at all. Like, it just doesn't feel right. And he reaches in his pocket and he pulls out a Sharpie and he signs it in the Sharpie. And he's like, so he calls up the CEO of the company that makes the Sharpie. I can't think of the name of the company right now. He's like, can I get, and he like lists up this, but I want a box of them, but I want it to look rich. And
of course,
this guy's like
solid gold Sharpies.
Yeah, the guy's like, no problem. So they're like these jet black with his signature in gold on the side. It's like, in case you're wondering how you're supposed to sign it, it looks like this,
Yeah.
So just unlock that Sharpie and go. I was trying to buy one because I thought, man, that would be a fun. You can actually get them on eBay. But they're not available for regular purchase. But there's that large box. Like he'll sign one thing with it and then give it to somebody.
Right.
There's a little mementos, and so you can buy them. It probably costs about $300-400, maybe $500 on eBay if you want a real one
for a pen that signs something. Got overturned. Did it get overturned?
Yeah, it got overturned.
Yeah.
It got struck down later.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh man,
that sounds great, man. You know what this pen was used for? It did something totally meaningless.
I'll tell you though, the one of the interesting things about it that I was struck by was
yesterday.
Yeah, yesterday. It was a little bit of the acceleration. So Obama comes in and doesn't change that much from Bush's policies, especially at the beginning. There's a shift, but it's like a really slow shift in the government. But for the most part, he keeps the majority of the initiatives in place, even the ones that, we're kind of we get upset about, like, why would you keep that? That's why we hated Bush.
Right.
It's like,
right.
So so Trump comes in. We have that sort of weird transition period, and he's overturning some stuff, but not a whole lot. And they're still kind of dealing with post-Obama stuff with the healthcare.gov and all that. Biden comes in and like day one, he's like, everything that Trump was doing, turn it off. Like, we're building the wall. Like, just turn the cranes off. Turn the crane off right now. Just hit the red button. Leave it. Walk away from the crane. Whatever is going on that was Trump initiative, just stop it. Good or bad. And so Trump comes in. One of the executive orders is we're rescinding the last 78 executive orders from the Biden administration. All 78. Just one. Like, yeah, whatever it was he did. No. Turn that off. It's like, oh.
And not 82 or whatever. There must have been something about that 79th one that they liked.
Yeah. I don't know. Right. But it's like, so in the last week, Biden had this thing about, we're going to try to, do this thing for AI. Speaking of AI again, we're going to try to, if it's sufficiently powerful, then we need to report on its safety information. It's like all that just gets wiped away. Like, no. EV, no. DEI, no. Right. I mean, it's just, it's not even like, as these things come up and problems are uncovered, we'll reevaluate. It's like, no, step one is try to erase the previous administration.
And so I think dictator on day one, man.
It's really wild. Like, there's not even a pretense, which I guess, I mean, Biden did it too. So,
but I think,
whatever. It's just like, wow.
Yeah, I mean, there's something, whether it was Biden or Trump or whoever, the inaugural day signing ceremony is kind of like your chance to put your stamp on, the new direction of the country and whatever, I'm sure they expect half of the things he signed yesterday to be challenged and blocked out. They were last time, so it's not like,
oh yeah.
But at least he can say to his, the true believers out there that, hey, I was day one, I did it, and we did it, mission accomplished, now whether or not it actually stays or whatever remains.
Well, I think it's a good strategy in the sense that last time,
it's good optics by all means,
Oh, optics, sure. But in terms of like the previous administration, where pretty much everything he did, like, you do something, the joke was that like there'd be some judge in Hawaii somewhere that would like do a nationwide injunction instantly, like hours later, for the whole. And so it's like, okay, well, all those structures that enable that kind of thing are still in place. So instead of doing one at a time, we'll just do all of them. And then that way, okay, some of them are just going to like sail
May
through.
sneak through.
Sneak through.
Right.
And the ones that don't, well, the clock has started. Right. So by the time all the stuff gets adjudicated, and I don't know what his batting average was once everything has finally gone through appeals, 40%, 60%, whatever it is, that it's like, well, those actually have a chance of being, we'll figure out which ones in time for them to actually have an effect. And so if the effect is good, then this sets up the next, instead of saying, oh, no, everything he did was just bog down the courts, nothing ever happened. It's like, well, there's a time limit, so let's just get it all done now.
Were you paying any attention to the Hamas deal, the ceasefire that they negotiated?
Just a little bit.
Okay. No thoughts on it?
I mean, overdue.
Sure, of course. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, thought it was, you're talking about like the optics of it, or who actually negotiated it, or that kind of thing?
Well, I thought it was really interesting how, of course, Biden's taking credit. Of course, Trump's taking credit. I mean, Trump takes, both of these guys, like, sure. we know Biden has not done anything, like his team. But I mean, you can take credit for the team, obviously. So,
yeah.
But the whole debate, was, well, who did it, and
sure.
If and to me, it was less interesting in terms of like, trying to figure. I mean, to me, it's like I don't care. The reason I don't care is because I don't think the framework of the agreement is strong enough to actually like do any real. They're letting Hamas stay constituted. So it's I mean, I'm glad that the bombing, the killing has stopped, and you're just basically guaranteeing that we're just going to do this again in a few months or a couple of years or whatever the case may be. But anyway, as they were going back and forth. Of course, like all the right-wing commentators are like, it's so ridiculous that they're trying to take credit for this. Obviously, Trump did all this. Da, 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 da. And then on the left, you had people saying, well, it's so ridiculous that Trump is trying to take credit for this. Like, yeah, of course, he sent a couple people over there and they finally, agreed to the ceasefire. But like all the framework of the negotiation that they adopted is stuff that we negotiated, back in April or whatever the case may be. This is the peace deal that was rejected, by. And I'm like, well, dude, you guys are totally missing the point. I mean, at least from my perspective, like nobody cares what you negotiated if you didn't close the deal. Like, I mean, at the end of the day, like you got to close the deal. And, especially when the principal person who was saying, I don't want this deal was Netanyahu. So it was like, at the end of the day, dude, like if you want the deal, all you have to do is say, sign it or we're not sending you any more money. Like, right. Especially for that one, like Hamas, maybe that's a different story because they're not getting, obviously they're not benefiting from, but I mean, we have all this leverage and he just was not using it anywhere. Mm-hmm. And it was like, same thing with TikTok, same thing with TikTok. It's like, you have this leverage. Why wouldn't you use it?
Well, no one was in charge. I mean,
nobody to use it, I guess, maybe.
Yeah. I mean, we had 4 years. It was an interesting experiment. Like, can you go 4 years without a president?
Yeah, as long as you're willing to give away a crap load of money and get nothing for it. Yeah, any knucklehead can do that.
What can I say? I mean, I don't know.
Do that.
Well, I mean, even if you like the stuff that came out of it, so I'm not saying like good or bad on the policies. It's just that I don't think anybody can look at it and say that that Biden was in charge, that we had a president for 4 years. We did not. It just a caretaker, titular head, whatever that they trot out, put away. So it's like, yeah, I mean, of course, you're not going to have someone who can say, look, you're going to do this. Like we're shutting off the taps of the money today. That's it. We're done unless you do this. Who's going to say that? Lloyd Austin?
Oh, we don't need you. Okay, and then I'm going to start funding Hamas. How about that?
Yeah, or whatever. I mean, like we're not going to be a reliable veto for you anymore on the UN Security Council or whatever.
It's
There's
crazy.
also
And the other thing is it's like it's the exact same thing with the whole border deal. You know, when they because there is a valid point that they did get an agreement, and Trump told his people don't vote for that because we can't give him a win, you know. And politically, I agree, right? But it also says, okay, well, if you're willing to take that line, then you also don't think it's that big of a deal. We could take another 6 months of it or whatever, right? What I thought was so fascinating was after it was rejected, Biden's like, well, we got to do something, so I'm just going to go ahead and do it. And then he issues all these executive orders. Now, they weren't, in my opinion, strong enough, but I mean, whatever. He issued all these executive orders. Like, well, you could have done that anytime you wanted. Like, you literally have just, it's amazing to me all the different things over the last like several weeks that they've just took away, like literally just gave away their best, card. Like, if you really believed your hands were tied, then why are you doing that?
Mhm.
Like that just tells me that you knew your hands weren't tied the whole time and just chose to not do anything about
It was
it.
just
Like,
it was just posturing. Yeah,
it's just
yeah,
nuts,
yeah. I
nuts.
I think this is so. I think that if you look at 2016, the central premise of Trump's candidacy as primary, not in the general, but in the primary, was that Washington is full of not necessarily corrupt people. I mean, sure, they are, but like the real issue with Washington is just filled with fools. You just have people in there that are stupid, and that's why things are going poorly. Is they're not sending their best, right?
They're
Um,
not sending it.
um, but yeah, and I think if you look at sort of standard Washington establishment stuff, and you look at it's just a lot of head scratching stuff, and I mean, it's not like we're politicians. I mean, I called the TikTok thing, I think, play by play, exactly what was gonna happen, and it did. And it's like, I think anybody could have looked at that and seen it. I'm not some political genius, right? I mean, it's just
Nostradamus,
no, I mean,
Nostradamus.
it's like in these giant red neon pulsing light, like, this is gonna happen. Do we have a plan to, like, make ourselves look good on this, Democrats? And it's like,
Apparently
"No,
not. Apparently not.
no, just never thought that far ahead."
Insanity.
It's amazing. Um,
Insanity. Well, it brings up this old choice that a friend of mine gave me a long time ago because we were talking about gridlock in DC or whatever, and it's like it's just a shame that our system doesn't allow you to get anything done. He's like, well, it's a good thing.
you
That
don't want
actually,
them to do anything.
you don't want them to do anything. It's like so. It
Screw it
is
up.
it brings up this whole like okay, well, now you had a government that couldn't do anything right. Now you have a government that is going to try to do a lot of stuff. We'll see whether you like any of the initiatives or not. But
Yeah.
yeah,
I think it's gonna be interesting. I've been watching at least some of the social media reaction, and like the feeling of defeat that you get from so many of the um, so much of the left is really wild. Like, it turns out most of the stuff that the Biden administration did was it was so there was almost no durability to it.
but see, that's not, so again, that's just not true. It's a lot of the most visible stuff is like that.
Hmm.
But I think a lot of these infrastructure projects, I mean, they'll stand the test of time. And nobody's going to vote on giving that money back. Those projects are allocated and they're going to go forward. And even the Republicans in their districts that were like, "Oh, I'm voting against this. This is the worst thing. I'm going to Washington and run amok." It's like now they're bragging that they brought all these jobs. So it's like
Sure.
those things are totally fine. And I think it's just to me, Biden and the entire team, like what they did well, they couldn't sell, they couldn't promote it, couldn't sell it, couldn't get people talking about it. And then the stuff that they did wrong was so like blatantly out there in your face. It's like, how can you even like no explanation for this? Nobody has like you literally just said anyway. I just but the stuff that shouldn't have any durability to it doesn't. So I don't think
Yeah.
there's any shame to that. And I think the stuff that he did well, he's not going to get credit for, which
No,
frankly, he doesn't deserve credit for it, because if you can't claim it, you don't deserve it. So
well, I think that's actually going to be one of the funny parts about all this is, so you know how one of my theorems, the sort of the boom bust theorem that seems to follow Democrats, sort of the unlucky theorems. Like when Carter was in office, it was weird. Like our economy was crapped out, but then Reagan, yeah, at first it was a little rocky as we kind of get past, all the terrible malaise from that. But then things got better, and then it goes down and up or whatever. You can sort of match it to Democrat, Republican, or whatever. And one of the funny things about it is it's like, well, you'd have to believe that just Democrats are incredibly unlucky. Like they just can't catch a break. That whenever they're in power, the economy goes bad and no one knows why. And
or
so
you
of course,
could believe that the economy is a lagging indicator to policy, and so
right, it just happens to be timed just perfectly. It's amazing.
well, Democrats fix things, and then their time is up. Republicans come in, reap all their rewards, and then of course they screw up all their stuff, and then by the time their time is up, the country's sick of them. They elect another Democrat who inherits all the bullshit that the Republican just did.
And what's amazing about it is that when when Democrats are in power only 4 years, and it only takes 4 years for it to turn around. But when they're in power 8 years, and it takes 8 years for things to turn around, which is really wild. I've never understood that anyway. But
it depends on the size of the crisis you're inheriting, I guess.
It is strange how it's the coincidental. But I think what's going to be really funny about this is that the infrastructure stuff that Biden did was so poorly managed, even though the stuff has been allocated, like so little that has actually been put into place.
That's true.
That what we're going to see is all the stuff start to happen now, and then it'll be like, yeah, that was us. Right? The Republicans will
of course.
Like,
well, of course, and that's
we
what
did this. We did it.
That's what this team is great about. Is look at all the things I've given you. Yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it is good if you like that outcome.
Oh, I mean, it's good in that, like, it's beautiful to watch as like someone who just enjoys the process, enjoys it as like a sport. It's fun to watch the sport.
It is fun to watch the sport. I'll give you that. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. You said something just a minute ago, and I was gonna take the topic somewhere else, but now it literally was right there, and now it's gone.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Hey, if it was the synchronization, if anyone watches this later, the synchronization on Republican Democrat, that's totally false, by the way. It's just it's funny, right? And the big case for it being false is, of course, the 8 years of Bill Clinton, where like the second half the economy was doing so well, we actually had a surplus, and the government was lean and mean, and it's like, yeah, well,
Well, here's the thing. To me, it's less about. I mean, it does tend to fall Democrat, Republican, because of the philosophy, though. It has nothing to do with what do you want to call it? Competence, right? It has to do with the competence is tied to your philosophy, right? So like some people are just really good at execution, but they execute badly designed programs,
bad stuff,
right? And so it's like, hey, you were very competent in rolling out this program that has terrible results, right? So the thing about Clinton, for example, and most like they're all about generating revenue, not to the government, but to the country, right? So how do
GDP goes up?
GDP. So when GDP goes up, and you're clever about collecting the government's piece of it, right? Then you set yourself up to win. When you don't do that, then you're really screwed. It's like a lot of these things, like they'll roll out these programs. They say, oh, well, it's going to be this much over this many years, right? And it's like, okay, so now we can evaluate that, right? But what they don't do is they don't like go and correlate and say, okay, well, if we, for example, like tax cutting. So if we cut taxes for businesses, let's say, business owners, small businesses, then you get more people that want to get into entrepreneurship. They want to scale their business. You make loans get more accessible, et cetera. And my business grows. As my business grows, my tax burden grows, and therefore the government recoups the lost money that they spent in giving me my tax cut, right? And I use quotations around that because obviously your perspective, you could replace all those words with something else, right? So that's the theory, right? But if you do a stupid tax cut where you just like give, an across the board cut to everybody, including like mega corporations, billionaires who don't need, like all this stuff, it's like, well, now all you've done is give money away. That didn't stimulate the economy at all. All those people did was take it and invest in stock, which made the stock market go great. And so as long as you want to point to, oh, look at the stock market, the economy is great. I did that, right? All you did was give a bunch of money to people who already had money, who let them buy more equities, and the stock market goes up. That doesn't mean the GDP of the economy or anything else is going well, or that the average person is set up better, And to me, that's where a lot of this stuff kind of like, it's like one of the things Trump talked about yesterday, which I thought was just great. It was like, okay, well, I don't know why more people don't talk about this, but he's like, look, if he was talking about establishing an office of external revenue service.
External revenue, yeah.
So it's, he's like, look, you have internal revenue, raise money from taxpayers, external revenue, raise money from people to do business with us. Like to do business in a country, you're going to have to do these things, et cetera. Everybody wants access to our markets, just like we all want access to China's market or whatever, because there's a crap load of people there, people that have some money, want to buy stuff. So if you have stuff, that's a huge market to get into.
Potential customers. Let's go get it.
One of the top markets in the, if not the best market in the world to be in. Like there should be some participation, not fees, but like that we should. When he's talking about doing that deal with TikTok, and he's like, look, if I didn't authorize this, then they would be worth nothing. So I'm going to authorize it for 90 days so that we can see if we can put a joint venture together, but the government will own 50% of TikTok, the taxpayers. And so if the company's worth, $100 billion, well, that just made us $50 billion, us, right? Which goes into the revenue, right, of the government. And so it's like, these are deals that because of it's not like uniquely him to come up with something like that. It's just that when you have experience doing deals and closing deals, you see opportunities that people who don't do that for a living, they don't see those things because, they've been trained up in, hey, this is the way things are done, and this is the process, and these are the norms, and this is everything, right? And there's a lot of comfort and stability in that. On the flip side, it's like, well, man, these are unique opportunities, unique situations. And I mean, he's 100% right on that. It's like, look, this literally boils down to me signing this or not signing this. If I don't sign it, it's worth nothing. If I do sign it, it could be worth, he made up
tons,
trillions, he said,
Yeah.
Okay, well, so that we should get our piece. And, not Trump Incorporated, but the US government, right? Like that makes total sense. Like, why would you not do that? It's like, there's a cost to doing the government's business, whatever we decide the government's business is, there's a cost to doing it. And so how do you pay for that, et cetera, right? And so before, I think 1918, there wasn't an income tax at all. Like we raised our money from
tariffs,
tariffs and property tax and things like that. So now you have a situation where people are just used to, like, this is the way it has to be done. I mean, it's 100 years now of, getting, a quarter of your income basically harvested for, to pay for stuff that you don't even
for what? Nobody
even
knows. No.
So I just think it's that was refreshing, and it was kind of like it highlights to me one of the biggest opportunities there is for both parties. And I think, just going back to your thing about like how defeated Democrats are, it's because the way most of the Democrats that I know, the way that they tend to think is, and Republicans do this too, like people that are politically active, this is the way they think. It's like, if the other team wins, then I lose, and it's the country's made a left turn and it's going into the ditch, and what are we going to do to save it? And there's this huge emergency and whatever else, right? And so if you con yourself into believing that that's the case, then yeah, you're going to be like hyper emotional about it, et cetera. And meanwhile, there are all these new, forget politics. There's all these new opportunities that are presenting themselves. Whether, I mean, we're not even talking about implementing brand new technology. It's technology that's been around for decades. In terms of the government efficiency stuff that I saw
Oh yeah.
the Vivek and Elon talk about. What if we did this and we did that? And they don't have anything that does this. And it's like, dude, I mean, most small businesses that I know have something like that, and they don't even have that. Like, so I just think there's such a competition to acquire power, and then when you acquire power, it's like, okay, let me just keep doing business as usual, or
But now
let me keep doing business as usual, but favoring my people, and my
that's what we do.
initiatives and what. But at the end of the day, it's still tax, spend money on programs, bombs people strategically to try to get, I mean, whatever. I mean, I don't know how you want to define the actions of a head of state, but I mean, it's like instead of, hey, we have a responsibility to put the country in a better place, and what are the levers that I can pull to get us in a better place? It's very basic thinking. It's just missing,
Yeah. If they wind up doing like the government or government managed corporation, what do they call those?
Joint venture.
No. But it's a gong.
He's not
Right.
talking about. Well, I don't think. I mean, who
Anyway,
knows how that's
but
going to play
like,
out? But my vision was when I heard that, like, if it turns out that the government is right, I think that's dumb.
oh no,
Obama did something similar when he took a stake in GM. It was like, okay,
right.
look, we're going to bail you out, but we're going to take this piece of ownership, and then liquidated the position over time to recoup all the money and then some. It's like, well, that's
Right.
smart. That's the way you do things,
Right. No, I was thinking if they took it as part of like a government organized non-governmental organization, Gongo.
Oh, NGO, yeah.
Yeah, but government organized.
Gongo.
A Gongo. Yeah. So
I haven't heard that. That's good. Gongo.
Oh no, that's a thing. Anyway, but if they did
it is
something
now,
like,
we just made it one.
No, it's a real thing. It's where the
believe that.
NGO is made by like USAID or the CIA or whatever. Anyway, but that if they did that, then that would be very interesting on the free speech side because it would actually be subject to First Amendment protections. Because you could no longer say, well, it's a private company, they have their own moderation standards, whatever. It's like, nope, it's government. So that means the First Amendment would apply in some fashion. Like there would be a much higher level of scrutiny on stuff.
That'd be interesting.
Yeah, that would be different. But I don't think that's what's going to happen. I think it's going to be, it'll be sold to, I don't know, 50% of it bought by, I don't know, Microsoft, IBM, Oracle, something like that will pick up half of it as like a holding company, sharing the profits, whatever. It'll be something like that. I doubt it'll be sold to Musk. He can't buy it.
Well, I hope it's not. It's like, I mean, forget the expensive shitty goody, whatever. I mean, to me, it's just like, dude, one person should not be having. I mean, I don't like the fact that Zuckerberg owns Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, Threads. I mean, like that is a lot of. I don't know, it's like Hearst when Hearst owned all the newspapers. It's like, dude, that's not good for anybody, Well,
I actually had this conversation with the girls because we were watching some of the inauguration stuff, and they had all these tech billionaires all in a row. Right?
Oh yeah, dude, yeah,
and
bought and paid for it.
Well, one of the funny things about
either they're bought and paid for, or the president's bought and paid for. One of them is bought and paid for.
Well, most of them spent like a couple $1 million to help the inauguration festivities. So
I heard it was up to 40 mil. So yeah, between 10 and 40 million dollars,
which for them is very little. But anyway, right. What she was asking was like, oh, so does he own Google? It's like Sundar there. It's like, no, not in the way that Zuckerberg owns Facebook. Like,
right.
Zuckerberg can do literally whatever he wants. I mean,
whatever
it's a
he wants.
Traded company, but he owns so much of the controlling stock that like he can't be ousted. He
cannot be ousted. That is exactly right. And like, he was actually
that's not the case with these other guys. I think right. Bezos is even. Could Bezos? Does he own a controlling portion of Amazon?
I don't know. Close to it. I don't know, but I can speak to Zuckerberg because he was on Rogan a couple of weeks ago, and they were talking through that. Rogan did a really good job just asking, well, I mean, why did you do this in the first place? And what, I mean, this it all sounds great, but I mean, like, I mean, you could have done this a long time ago, like, why weren't you honest with us about what you were, and he's like, I totally get it. It's kind of funny. He's funny, man. It's like, I kind of watching him over time. Like, I had a very negative view of him for a long time, but I don't know, the last 6 months or so, I've been kind of like, actually, I think maybe
He's a
he's
smart guy.
He's starting to kind of wake up a little bit, be a little savvy, but he's like, yeah, dude. I mean, like the government comes blazing at you, guns blazing, and this is national security interest, and da 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 da. And he's like, I mean, what are you supposed to do? I mean, I love the country, just like the next guy. I'm like, sign me up. How can I help? And he's like, but he goes, after it's been proven over and over again that just all a bunch of lies. It's like, what are we going to do about it? It's like, actually, thanks for your input, and we got it. And he goes, and he was giving Elon kudos. He's like, I gotta give Musk a lot of kudos. I mean, the way that they approached fact checking on X with the community notes, he goes, that made a ton of sense. He goes, that is great. That's how, and, he didn't mention any other platforms, but I was thinking like, Wikipedia, all these different things where it's like, are there errors in it? Sure. But in general, that's a reliable body of information because it's open source like that. And I just think I'm a big fan of open source. So
Well, that's the fun thing with Wikipedia is even you can go look at the talk page and see what are the controversial parts. What stuff has been edited.
The other thing about that open source thing that I just think is worth hitting on in this episode, since we're talking about it, but one of the things that I've heard from people on the left that actually kind of concerned me when I first heard it was like, well, all Elon is doing at X is basically the same thing they were doing at Twitter, but flipped. So now, he's just censoring left-wing speech the same way that, they were censoring right-wing speech or whatever. And, this isn't, he's just the same. And I'm like, I'm sure he is just the same in the sense that we're all human beings and prone to making craven decisions. I'm sure that's true. And he's guarded against that by publishing the source code. It's not the source code, but the algorithm. It's like, hey, this is how it works, and it's just being thrown against that. And it's there for everybody to go look at and see. It's like, well, okay, pick through it, see how it's weighted. It's not weighted at all,
So here's what typically people mean when they say that. So X is not censored the way it used to be. Where there was definitely a thumb on the scale towards, I mean, they were, I think were they the last holdout on banning, what's the guy's name? The psychopath guy, turning the frogs gay.
Alex Jones.
Alex Jones. Yeah. When he got banned from everything, they were the last ones. So they were always kind of a little bit more on the side of, let's let people talk.
Right. Well, that was Jack Dorsey.
Yeah, that was back in the Dorsey years.
Yeah.
But with the COVID stuff and like there's all sorts of things that you couldn't say. I mean, if you tweeted out, I tried it, by the way. I tweeted out the New York Post article about Hunter Biden back in 2020. Got my account shadow banned and everything. Like, those were forbidden words. You could not say those things. And so none of that stuff is going on anymore. Yeah. When people say that, the left is being censored now, what they mean is that the community note system is preventing people from just saying sort of the standard liberal pieties, or not, I shouldn't want to say liberal, I want to say like establishment pieties that you normally would have been able to say. So in the past, you could say, you could just sort of repeat whatever CIA talking point was delivered to you on MSNBC or CNN or whatever. And it would just sit there. And now it's like, no, there's going to be a community note that says, this is false. Here's the video proving it, all this other stuff. And the community note will be upvoted. And then, people will wind up like removing their tweets because
that's self-censoring because I posted something stupid.
Like, see, this is what's happening, right? Is that like, misinformation is getting promoted on that site through the community notes. And it's like, no, your misinformation is getting blocked.
Being debunked, bro. Like,
yeah. But that's in general what they mean when they say something like that. And if you want to find out, like, what is the unfiltered sort of deep left hive mind, Blue Sky is a wonderful platform. I love it. I'm on there pretty much every day, just kind of reading through what people have to say. And if you want to find out like what they're saying, it's there. you know, it's kind of turning into the left wing version of Patriots.win, but
all I'm going to say is enjoy
wild.
yourself because it's a freak show.
It's
Patriots.win is a perfect analogy.
It's amazing.
Those of you guys that are watching this, you've never been to Patriots.win, just do yourself
Oh,
a
you
favor,
gotta
go over there. The God Emperor Trump, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Outrageous.
And the stuff with like Trump with lasers coming out of his eyes, zapping Adam Schiff, and
oh yeah, where he's like built like Superman and all this stuff with machine guns. It's like freaking Team America.
It's beautiful.
It's I mean, if that's your thing, then you might love Blue Sky because it's basically the same thing.
Same thing, but on the other side.
Alex Jones, man. Speaking of which, he's making a comeback.
Yeah. Well, he's entertaining. People love to watch him.
Yeah, he's making a comeback. He's like, I've been proven right about everything. Like, well, $1 billion didn't do much to shut you up.
Well, what was he got in trouble for, it was the Sandy Hook victims. Yeah. He made some claims about them that was pretty defamatory.
They were all crisis actors. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like that's a really, I'm all about freedom of speech. I think it's in very poor taste to make fun of someone or accuse someone who's lost a child. Like, even if you thought it was true, you suspected there was something fishy about it. It's like, on the chance that they lost a child, I'm gonna not say that. Like, I don't know. Yeah, there's got to be a line in there somewhere.
I don't know, man. To me, it's like
I can understand why I got sued for that.
Yeah, well, 100%. This is America, dude. Wake up. Anybody can sue anybody here.
Yeah.
And those aren't people that have the presumption of like public figures where you can just say whatever you want.
Right.
Even with public figure, I mean, you look at some of these lawsuits that have come out in the last several months with George Stephanopoulos against when Trump sued. ABC for repeatedly calling him a rapist. It's like, you can't do that. I mean, it's like but this judge said that what he did, colloquially would be known as rape. It's like, okay, yes, that judge did say that, and frankly, I find the behavior like.
If you want to quote the judge, quote the judge.
Well, just the behavior is breathtakingly bad. So that's all you got. If you want to talk about it. No, you can't get sued for that. But you can get sued for then saying he's been convicted of rape, which did not happen. It's like, what are you? Come on. Not that I even think the distinction is that big of a difference. It's like, I mean, it's not. To me, it's like, look, just contextually. Okay, I mean, he's on tape saying that this is what he likes to do, and then you have a case where somebody says, "Hey, he did it to me." That's not that big of a leap to go.
You can put one and one together,
and then it's like, and then he's convicted. Okay, has to pay, which he has, right? And it's like, okay, all of that happened can be talked about is a huge story, and you just basically I don't even know what the right thing is there, but you just totally screwed yourself by, you don't need to go that extra mile. It's already bad enough.
What do you think, by the way? I think we're looking at an issue here for the news media, where I think there's been a couple of these kind of high profile lawsuit settlements, some, with CNN, I mean, their latest one was over $100 million, I think.
The one they just were found guilty of, that's just the actual damages. The punitive damages haven't even been done yet.
Might even be larger. So I wonder if like, okay, turns out
it's just crazy. Did you read anything about that case?
Just a little bit. They
had back and forth with the reporter saying, "I'm going to get this sucker. Can you believe he wants to talk now?" Da, da, da. It's like, dude, that's your job. It's just unbelievable.
Well, I think there is for the past 8 years, there's been kind of a strong push towards like advocacy journalism. So
How do you
not really
define that?
what?
How do you define advocacy journalism?
Well,
Where it's not, I'm not reporting the facts. I'm trying to get you aware of something that you should care about.
yeah, and I want to bring you over to a particular side or a
Point of
particular way
view.
of thinking about it. So I think of the difference between, say,
They
a
used to call
national
that editorial.
yeah. Well, I mean, think about the difference between like a National Geographic documentary and a documentary made by Michael Moore, who, by the way, I love his work.
Me
He's
too.
great. But you do recognize that they're doing different things, right? Michael Moore
Yeah,
is
100. Sure.
putting a camera in places in order to like try to convince you of something. National Geographic is like, here's nature, you know,
Right.
good and bad. So I think we've gotten a lot of sort of Michael Moore style news media and a lot less of here is nature news media. And it's gotten to the point now where I think you do wind up with, and we've talked about this before, like, you know, sort of competing echo chambers where you don't even know what the other person, you know, is talking about or has thought about. I mean, there was one really wild moment of this yesterday when I think it was on NBC. I was watching, was it Savannah Guthrie was interviewing former Speaker of the House, Kevin McCarthy. And it was a nice interview. Like he was part of a panel. They were talking about a variety of things. And she was just like, well, you know, how could it be that, you know, he was able to ignore his classified. He was holding classified documents at Mar-a-Lago. You know, like he was convicted. He was convicted of this. I mean, this is a felony. I mean, it was, and it was like she wasn't even aware of all the circumstances surrounding it, like all the different legal wranglings, all the stuff about, you know, the disparate treatment of him versus Biden, who also had in his possession classified documents taken while he was a senator. I mean, he wasn't even they're much worse in terms of a breach of protocol of security there. No prosecution, no nothing, because he's old, whatever. And it's
I don't know
like,
that that's the case. It's I think what caused. I don't want to derail you because I know you're going somewhere. But go ahead. In fact, I'll just hold that.
Well, no, but what was really wild about it was like for anybody who'd been following this case from both sides, if you've been following it from the right, you're aware of all sorts of weird circumstances surrounding the raid and everything. And for her to treat it like, well, it's just justice being done. Like the police went in, they found a crime, he was charged, he was convicted, open and shut, done. You know, it's like, no, that's like that's like a advocacy position. That's not a here are the facts position. And anybody watching NBC probably wouldn't know about all those things.
You know? Well, the facts are too, though, that he, you know, the National Archives realized they had missing documents. They presented him a request. He refused to honor it repeatedly.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So at the end of the day, like it's like, look, they're not his. They belong to us and the National Archives, which is us. So they sent. I mean, do I think they should have broken down his door and all that other stuff? No,
his door.
That was guns drawn. That was not only was that theatrical, overly so, but it also like, I mean, before they did that, I don't even know that he had a shot at women winning the primary, frankly. Yeah. And I mean, they basically
won the primary for him.
helped him become president. Yeah, to me, it's like, okay, the end result of your actions are just like they were not productive in the way that you hope. So, like, I mean, at least take responsibility for that. You know.
Well, yeah.
On the flip side, there was a. It's not like, I mean, they had given him, I want to say it was like a couple of years going through, and his lawyers responding and then responding, back and forth. And it's like, look, I mean, we because, and especially too for him, he was having all these foreign leaders and powerful people come and see him at Mar-a-Lago, and then there were reports that he had shown them documents, right? And he bragged about it. And so, you know, oh yeah, I don't even know if I'm supposed to show you this, but blah blah blah. You know, like, I mean, and he had bragged about that. So like, at some point, you know, if keeping classified documents seems like a concern that you should have, then how would you not respond to that? Like you have to go get them. Um, I just think they could have handled it a totally different way, where it would
Sure.
have been, although I think he also provoked that. Like he wanted a spectacle. He wanted
Hmm.
that to happen because he needed something to change the conversation from him
Oh
being,
yeah.
a sore
Well,
loser to he needed to turn back into a victim. He wasn't a victim at that moment. And because he always plays way better from a victim
yeah, from
frame.
behind. Yeah.
So big time. Like, and he's always like, oh, they're doing this, they're doing that. I'm a victim of everything, and I'm out here fighting for you. They're coming after me. That's like they're coming after you. He's very good at that, and then people buy it. So that was really missing. I think he, frankly, provoked it. Um, I think
Well,
it's
if he
like, oh my god,
did,
I can't believe you're doing
th-
this. I mean, it's
if
it's
he did,
it. Go
if
ahead.
if he did, they played into it so well,
Oh,
like
100%. It's like
to the
it's like it's
level
It's like
to the
Obama.
level.
It's like Osama bin Laden tearing down the buildings. It's like I think somebody, it's one of his competitors, like, yeah, we never dreamed that you would play into our hands that well.
I'm like,
uh, Thanks. Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
no,
I just think it's like the thing with the. I mean, I think everybody who's left office. I mean, not everybody, but many people, is like dozens, if not hundreds of people, that left office had classified files that either they came across, were requested, whatever, they turned them over. Like it's never a thing where somebody like fights and says, "I'm not giving them back." I can't remember.
I think there were,
Okay,
but it
I'd
was
love
one
to
of
know
those.
what
Yeah,
what those
I'm trying
were.
to remember which president it was, where there was like things like, no, these are going to be part of my presidential library. These are my papers, and it went back and
Oh,
forth, and eventually the National Archives dropped it or something.
okay,
Um,
but still, it was handled. They were in communication and were and worked it out, right? Whereas he was not. Like, I mean, so
but
and
that's
again, I think that was as he intended. But
well, and also like what working it out looks like. We've both been in situations as siblings where like working it out means, why are you resisting my
my
perfectly
authority,
reasonable
yeah,
option? You're like, well, I don't want to do that. Like, well, you're the problem. I'm
yeah,
fine. You're the problem. It's like, hey, I tried to work it out, but he wouldn't do it. I had to
right.
punch him in the face because I mean, he was being unreasonable. I was trying to work it out. Right. Like, what does trying to work it out actually mean?
Just for those of you not watching, I was the puncher. Yes.
No. Hey, it was sometimes a little bit even. Um,
But I
sometimes.
think to your point too, that one other thing I'll just kind of put out there is, and not really about the documents thing, because I mean at this point it's moot,
Yeah,
doesn't
it
matter.
doesn't matter. Yeah.
But I do think one of the things that I find so uh, admirable slash jealous over is Trump's ability to compartmentalize these things. Like if if I was under a federal indictment, right, I don't know that I would even be able to function, run my business, et cetera. I mean, the fact that he was able to be under, you know, I don't know how many different counts, I think it was up to 90 at some point, felony counts in like four different trials in four different jurisdictions, you know, uh, thankfully he's not really running his business anymore. Eric's doing that, but like he's still running,
Has a
declares
role.
for president. He's got to me, it's like a lot of these things. It's like, okay, well, yeah, it's like who does that? Like, and I think that's why, frankly, like the Justice Department. I don't know. I'm not in their heads, but like if I was in there over there, I could just imagine them being like, I mean, dude, of course this will make him crater. I mean, like nobody can deal with this. This is the full weight of the government on you. And uh, he should have absolutely melted down. He should have absolutely melted down. He should have gone away in shame. All this different
Mhm.
stuff.
Take
And the
some
fact that
plea
he's
deal.
and the fact that he's just some like I don't know that it's admirable at all. It's just from a survival standpoint and a being effective in your life standpoint. It's like what a superpower to have to be able to just um, my self image isn't attached to any of the stuff that you guys say, period. Not only the government, but all of the media, I mean, like just all of this concerted, like you and your people are assholes, basically. And to be able to just discard and disregard all of that, all of the, yeah, it's not solved. Yeah, dude, do you realize if you're convicted of this and this and this, you could spend the rest of your life in jail? What? It's like, yeah, but I'm not in jail today. I'm not in jail today. Like today, I'm not, and it's like, so today I'm going to do what I do today. Right. And it's like, it's so, I had a friend of mine who was going through some tax issues and he's just like, oh man, I have to come up with that. I don't know if I don't, I'm like, hold on. Are you going to attempt to make restitution? Are you going to attempt to do that? Are you going to attempt to do that? Yeah. I'm like, dude, you're not going to go to jail. You're just going to, yeah, you're going to have a bill to pay every month that you didn't have before.
It's going to suck.
But it's going to suck. Nobody's going to like, but you're alive. You're in the sunshine. You're free. You could go. And so it's like, I just, to me, it's like that's something that we can all take away from this. I think is how can you become more present and centered, and also just kind of like not really care what people think. Like just you do you and do it to the best of your ability, and people can evaluate it on their own. I think George W. Bush was really good at this too. Again, that's somebody I'm not a huge fan of politically, but yet personally, like, it's just a great demeanor. It's like, look, I mean, because people would ask him all the time, well, how do you think history is going to judge you? He's like, I don't know. That's for them. Yeah. It's not my concern. My concern is to do the best job I can right now with what I know and what I have, and execute the best of my ability. It's an amazing ability to just center and be present, especially like if he can do it in that job, then how can you not do it in your job? So. Yeah.
Well, it's definitely, we got to watch 4 years of a true pro level multitasker. Like all the rest of us are amateurs in comparison.
Really?
Like that's how it's really done right there.
That's how it's done. I mean, like him and Musk too, man. Musk is another one where it's just like, gosh, like if you have not read have you read his biography?
No. It's too.
I'll send you a link to it.
I got.
No. This was written years ago. In fact, it's actually an old book. It was written right after they launched the first Roadster, I want to say, with Tesla. So like in 2015, maybe 10 years old. But it's incredible because it journeys, like the entire book is just him, making some good decisions, having some small wins, turning those small wins, but then like betting it all over and over again. And it's like, and then working his butt off, 120-hour weeks or whatever, to just sleeping in the factory. Like, just, I mean, he was so close to being absolutely bankrupt, like so many times, where it was like, dude, if this doesn't happen, we're out of business. Like, yeah, well, but not today. And again, it's like that Tom Cruise line in Maverick, where it's like, your kind is going extinct. It's like, yeah, but not today. And it's like, I love that. It's like, dude, I got a day. I'm going to fight for one more day, because it's what I got. And so, and then of course, like, to see the payoff, in our time, like even at the time the book was written, there was a small payoff. It's like, oh, and that's how we launched Tesla. But like now, and you see what he's done since then. It's like, dude, I mean, at any point he could have completely just like, I win, and been totally fine. And it's like, even now, it's like, dude, you're the richest man in history. Like, you're good. And it's like, no,
not done.
No,
Mars.
Not done. And it's because it's not like, to him, it's not about money. It's like, it's, yeah, he's got a vision for what it's very cool. It's like, dude, all these little distractions are meaningless next to my vision. And that's what I think is really, when the Bible says, there's no vision, you perish. If you don't have a vision, you die. And it's like, that's really interesting. Bro, I gotta hop off here, man. I got another thing coming up, but
this was fun. We left on an inspiring note instead of a pessimistic one, like we normally
do. That's great. It's because I talked last.
Yeah, that's what it is. We got to do that. You always need to get to that last word from now on.
All right, man. I'll talk soon.
See you.
Bye.